Hey everybody, Todd here, and welcome back to another Wellness Talk. So what I'm going to do today is answer or address a topic which has come up multiple times over the years in working here in my office with my patients, and of course with friends and families who've asked me, hey, what's the deal with medication? Should I be utilizing or considering medication in helping me to manage my anxiety or my depression? Or can I just rely on a therapeutic process? That's a hard question to answer sometimes. Now, when I'm sitting with somebody right here in my office, I have a little bit better understanding. I can look at the file, there's assessments that I can do. And a lot of times, this discussion is going to be a better discussion with your doctor. But I understand sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes it feels like doctors are just pushing meds. Do I really even need to take these medications? I like to use this kind of a metaphor or story to help people better understand the usefulness that medication brings to the table. Because, part of the reason it exists in the first place is because there is a use, there is a reason why. If we didn't need this, we never would have developed these types of pharmaceuticals in the first place. But yes, sometimes they can be overused, sometimes they're given in the wrong situation. But that's where if you have a good team, if you have a good medical doctor and you have a good therapist that you trust, and you have even an outside specialist, if you can get everybody to coordinate and work together, which we'll do, I do it all the time with my patients. I'll talk to the docs and say, actually a lot of times the docs love to hear what I'm seeing so that they can go and adjust things as needed, especially when I'm dealing with something more like bipolar or some other more severe mental health issue or chronic health issue sometimes. So here's a great way to think of this, is that imagine we have a bridge, and this bridge is just the usual way of you being. But slowly over time, that bridge needs some repairs. Part of the reason why people come in and work with me is because some of the old rules and the tools that we have no longer fit the new situations. It's almost kind of like we would never expect to wear a t-shirt that we had when we were 10 years old when we're 20 or 30 or 40. It would be very constricting. And so if you think about it this way, a lot of our old rules, we need to update them. So back to that bridge analogy. If we have the bridge begins to slowly fall apart. It's not as strong as it once was. There's more traffic going over it than there used to be. It's wider, it needs to be wider. So think of therapy. Therapy would be you and I going out on this bridge, hooking ourselves to the bridge, swinging underneath it, seeing what needs to be done, and then taking it real slow because we'd have to be safe, but taking it real slow and slowly trying to fix the bridge, hanging from ropes. We're getting at it from where we can. There may be parts of the bridge we just can't even get to. There's where medication comes in. I like to think of medication as a scaffolding. So we got our bridge, and now we can put a scaffolding in place. Now, the scaffolding is great because you and I can still keep working together on the mental components, the process, the underlying structure of the bridge. We can now get underneath it. We can see where there are some spots that are going to need some adjustment, and we can try to fix just that. We can even change the pattern of going across the bridge. We can play around with a lot more when we're using the scaffolding. Now, we can take that same analogy and we can apply it to there's no therapist, there's no psychotherapy at all. There's no therapist on the side. It's just you, and what the doc does is gives you the scaffolding to help keep the bridge in place. Well, that works, but if it truly is a mental health component and we're not doing something to work on the bridge, then over time, that scaffolding itself is probably going to not work as well as it once did. It's not going to do as well as it once did. We know that even with people who are bipolar and they're on medications to manage certain aspects, like the chemical, whatever's happening in the brain, that over time there are side effects from those medication, and sometimes the medication just doesn't work the same. Your body weight changes, you're more aging, all these factors. But the real simple way to think of it is just the medication is a scaffolding under the bridge. If we're just using the scaffolding alone and we don't have a work crew, then we're not really doing anything to update and to strengthen that bridge on its own. So I think of therapy and medication as the work crew, you and I working together to fix the bridge with a scaffolding. Then we can get a lot more done. We can get into places that we couldn't have gone before. Now, it's not always required, just depends on the shape of the bridge. So sometimes we may need the scaffolding, other times we may not. And we can still go about doing without, but there may be points where your therapist or I would say, you know, right now, we can't get under the bridge. The emotions are too strong, the back and forth swaying with the emotions is too much. So you really need to have a conversation with your doctor and find something, whatever it might be, so that we can get underneath that bridge and start to work on it a little bit more. Now, this is a really simplistic look at medication and psychotherapy, so it's not the be-all, end-all. But I have found with a lot of folks, when I explain this metaphor, I use this analogy, they're definitely like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. So it gives us a little bit of rest. You're not failing. The bridge, just being a bridge, over time will begin to not be as strong. There will be some challenges to the bridge's integrity. There will be some places where there are weak spots and cracks. It's not the bridge's fault. It's just being in existence that causes this. So it's not your fault. Anxiety, slow build over time, begins to lead to other components. And if those aren't addressed early on, hence a great idea to get into the therapist early before we need the scaffolding, and can lead to higher levels of anxiety, and then higher levels of anxiety, and then we'll have panic attacks, and then OCD-like behaviors. And if we can't escape from that, then we start to have secondary depression, and so on and so forth. So I hope that you can see how we want to get in early, because it's possible we could just hook up, go out under the bridge, fix it, just you and I together, work on whatever it is, strengthen that component, and then we can unhook and you can go about your business. But that would have to be earlier. So preventative medicine, what is it? A spoonful is better than an ounce tomorrow. So we want to make sure that we get out in front of it. But I do hope this little explanation gives you a better understanding of how to approach the idea of medication in the use of treatment, in the use of management of all kinds of different mental health issues. Until the next time, may you be well. Hey, Wellness Talk viewers. Hope you like what you saw here. If you did, be sure that you subscribe right here. And of course, you can also follow up either here or here for other videos. Again, make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell in order to get notifications of new material.